So I'm having my mental health therapy appointment today. I will talk to her about what happened. It's not like it hasn't happened before. I just want you guys to be aware of it. So I might have said it already. I have poor working memory. And working memory is not the same as short-term memory or long-term memory. I believe that those are the only three kinds of memory you have. So short-term memory might be within the day, and long-term is like you commit it to memory. It's you can remember when you're younger. But working memory is simply, and this is something that I recently starting to look at studies, and that even children who have ADHD, there are studies that show that they have big impairments in their working memory, even as children. So working memory is simply being able to hold information in your mind while you're using it. So it could be something you're making a list of, what am I doing today? And then all of a sudden you're like, wait, what was I doing? We all do this, right? But if you have an impairment in that aspect of your brain working, it's going to happen a lot more, and it's going to be something that can impact your life. It's an impairment. It's one thing to, on a regular basis, walk in the room and forget what you're doing. We all relate to that. But imagine if it's like constant, you know? It makes it just, the level of frustration and anxiety just trying to keep things together to get through your average day at work, especially if you're not diagnosed, is just, no wonder why people burn out and get physically ill, because the level, think of chronic stress for anyone and burnout for anyone. It causes eventually physical illness. You know, you work too hard, you will get physically ill. You have too much stress. You ever hear of adrenal fatigue? Some people will say that isn't, I'll do research on that. I'll see if, because I've heard that was, some people don't think that's a real thing. I don't know why it wouldn't be, but maybe that's true. If anything, just know, I'm a human being. I might seem dramatic, especially if I'm symptomatic, but I don't share with you information. I mean, it's possible I make mistakes, but generally speaking, especially when things are this important, without verifying, without learning actual facts, it's super important to me for myself. Because along with the stigma that's out there for living with a mental health condition, such as major depression, even though it's like super common, I lost my train of thought. Yeah. Venlafaxine. It's crazy to me because anybody who's taken Prozac, citalopram, I was on citalopram for many years, and that's a regular SSRI. And because of my physical exhaustion, and they have done blood work on me, this is before I was aware of what autism actually is, and that they call it, they're changing, I don't have a good name for it. High functioning and low functioning may be the term that they use medically still. In the community, if you use it and that's what you're comfortable with, that's fine. There isn't really there's controversies with both. High functioning, low functioning, there's a couple, we'll talk about that in another video. It can be insulting to people on either end of the spectrum if you're looking about as far as like the severity of impairments. And high support needs and low support needs can also be problematic because high masking adults pass as normal, and And because you are not higher support needs, you appear to be struggling way less than you actually are, because you are able to force yourself to suck it up and white knuckle it through life and think that there's something wrong with you and that it's you and you should snap out of it. So you have been compensating for a condition that you don't know you're struggling with and may have impairments in day-to-day life functioning. And you hide it even from yourself. You just think that everybody struggles like that. No. That's a whole nother conversation. But yeah, the reason why I bring up the Venlafaxine is it's very scary for me. I don't know the experience if I have other people who come to my channel. I know that there is a very high percentage, and I don't mean like 99%, but compared to the general population, if I end up looking up statistics or information before I post this, I may not, because I had several weeks where I was actually putting all of this work into learning how to edit, and it was a rabbit hole that I fell down and ended up using every waking moment of my time, and I can't do that anymore. But if I do, I'll put it here. If not, I apologize. I've lost my train of thought again. We're over an hour now. Oh. So I thank you guys for who has been around. I was not incredibly hour-long story short. I was really not in a good place at all yesterday. I was not okay. I was freaking out. I wasn't wanting to unalive. I just was like mood swinging like insane. And the volatility, it's not just unpleasant. It's not just the panic and the anger and the rage and the distress of it, or the sorrow, if you get that. It's not just the volatility of the moods. Luckily, I haven't had some of the more worst physical symptoms of antidepressant withdrawals, which are nausea. There's physical symptoms. There's this thing called brain zaps. Have you heard about that? Yeah, you're feeling like your brain's getting the electrical shocks. Why is that? Because your brain is an electrical organic computer, and it actually uses electrical impulses just like your heart does. So now you suddenly removing this chemical that it needs, just dramatically gone. It's a shock to the system. So now like you got all this misfiring and you feel like your brain's getting shocked. It's very interesting to me. Ironically, speaking of turmeric, that time earlier this spring where I was like forced to be without my medication for 4 days, that was absolutely horrible. There's no excuse for that. And it has been so traumatic that I have not been able to go down there and talk with them about it, because I was just going to start yelling at somebody. And I've been waiting for enough time to go by for me to be calm enough to be able to have a rational conversation with somebody. Because these people who work in pharmacies are human beings, and I don't want to get into the overworked and underpaid part, because I've worked in a pharmacy. I've been a pharmacy tech. I've also have empathy for pharmacists, because they do so much every day, and they're just worked very thin. and they work long hours. And, these are people's medications. It's not a joke. But, yeah, a whole nother video is that they're not educated on some of these things. I don't think they give them the education on the conditions they're treating. I don't. I'll talk to some of them. I'll talk to them. I haven't talked to, I've worked in an environment that has a pharmacy even when I wasn't working in a pharmacy. So I'm sure I can find some of my older coworkers. I'm sure I could find pharmacists to talk to that I have known to ask them, but I haven't been able to do that while I work with them or have worked with them. It's too triggering. It's too close to home because these are things I struggle with. So beyond the fact that how much do you want to share about a personal mental health condition or neurodivergence with someone you work with, right? There's a reason why we have HIPAA. When did HIPAA come into play? Was it in the 90s or the 2000s? There was a time that there wasn't HIPAA. And you did have to worry about people in the workplace finding out diagnoses because of ableism. Look at, you can see her. So yesterday was scary. I think it was scary just because of the fact that, maybe because she was triggering me. And I was in the middle of just getting upset by everything. I'm like, look at this, look at that. And then I wasn't doing anything about it. And I'm like, oh my God, these people are going to think I'm crazy. They're going to think, well, just go pick it up. I was mood swinging. My brain was being affected by all of these mood chemicals. I could not think straight. I couldn't stop it. I couldn't calm it down. It was like raging out of control, which in itself is very distressful. You cannot think straight when you have these emotions going like crazy in your brain. So I did not feel like a mature, rational human being. I was, having these severe withdrawals. So why is it so different with this particular medication? And I do apologize, those of you who don't know. Some of you already know and tell me that you follow me. So I don't know. Some of these videos, I'll go back and watch it and they're perfectly fine. And other ones, they're just garbage. It's like I'm all over the place. It's part of what I have, and I have to find an accommodation for editing videos. I have tried setting up a notebook with me with bullet points to help me stay on track. So as I start to lose track, I'll go back. But I might just have to accept that that's part of how my brain works. And there's a lot of wonderful gifts that come with that. Out of the box thinking. Things that are obvious to me, that are complicated or apparently most people don't even notice, which I don't get it, because the things that are, I don't know if they're more complicated for other people, but they're just like, people don't get stuff. That's one of the first time that I went without antidepressants that I noticed that I started having symptoms was probably, when did I start taking antidepressants? I was going through a separation, and there was a lot of things going on at that time that were highly stressful, I would say, for me, traumatic. I'm not getting into, that's not relevant. That's a previous chapter in my life that's closed. But that happened to be something I went through, and it's done. But for me, and that particular time and that particular situation, and this isn't throwing shade on anyone or anything, it's just what it was. And that might have been so with the other person. I don't know. All I know is what I was going through, because it went no contact, so I don't know. I just know that I had to get help, because for the first time in my life, I was wanting to unalive. And I'm not joking. I'm not looking for attention. I'm not looking for anyone to feel sorry for me. This was a fact that when I was actually physically able to get out of bed and stand, I was having these thoughts, and I never had them before. I'd get like little flashes when things get really overwhelming in life or really stressful, and then like immediately put it away. And so I just felt like that was really an immaturity thing. Like, why would you even think that? You're just stressed out. Stop that. But when it was something that it was actually like feelings like I wanted to go do something, that's crazy. That's crazy. And I couldn't stop it. And yeah. So I had to get help. And I don't know what other people believe. I don't know if you believe in a higher power or not. Everybody's philosophical, spiritual, or religious beliefs are different. But, you know, I have to believe that I'm supposed to be here. I'm not supposed to just want to do that and not be here. That's not how things are supposed to be. And my thinking was highly impaired. Oh my God, the despair was so bad. It was so bad. Oh God, it was bad. And the thing that I was thinking to do was insane. No sane person would do. And I grew up with people being very open about their struggles with depression, which normally you would think is a very good thing. But somewhere in my childhood brain, I don't know if they were open with me too young. It could have been I was too young. I was struggling. They didn't know about neurodivergence. They just knew I was struggling, and as a child. And I felt like people hated me. You know, of course, this is not unusual. There are bullies and there are people who get picked on, and anybody who is different or has different social skills is going to be bullied. It just feels like, I don't know if it's a human nature thing. You know, they say kids are cruel. I don't know if it's normally a developmental thing or if it's a human nature thing and adults do it too. I don't know. But when you're a child and you don't understand, you might act out, or who knows. So they did bring me to counseling. I think I was like 11, and they did try to get me to go on medication as a child. I didn't understand why. I'm like, this isn't normal. Even if I needed medication, why are both people who were my guardians telling me that they both struggle with this and they both took medication for this? My child brain rejected that and said, that's not likely because they're not related to one another. So, of course, now that I'm an adult and over the years of learning about depression, having an adult brain, and knowing critical thinking, and then also knowing on both sides of my family certain struggles that certain people have had. It just worked out that way. In my case, they did both struggle, and they did get help, and they did do the right thing. And them sharing things with me, I'm sure the way they shared things with me, I'm sure they did that with the guidance of professionals that also understood developmentally the age I was at. And they probably also coached them in how to talk to me about things. They did everything in the appropriate way. I was just thinking, this can't be possible. So I rejected it. And then, growing up, seeing how unhappy they were and the struggles they had because they both worked too much, it really affected their mental health, their physical health. That's a whole different conversation. So to me, I almost conditioned myself because of assumptions that I made from the level of understanding I was at developmentally at different ages, and seeing the struggles they had, told myself, because I had this question in my head. I thought, what if they're just believing that? What if that's what the counselors think and they convince them? What if they actually don't and they've been convinced? Because that's a possibility. People get misdiagnosed as things. Yeah, it happens.